Okay, we are live. Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Law Entrance YouTube channel. How many of you are here with me on the stream? Today's session is going to be a super helpful one because we have the second slot of SLAT exam tomorrow, happening from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. And the first slot is done, and we have a few learnings from the first slot in general learnings as well as subject wise learnings. So we'll discuss them. We'll obviously discuss the last minute tips which Amitain sir discussed for the previous slot, which is the slot one of the exam, so that all of you are absolutely ready for tomorrow's exam in every possible manner. How many of you are here with me on the stream? Can I have some responses in the chat box? If you guys are live and watching me, if I'm audible, visible, if everything is sorted, please give me some responses in the chat box. Mishika is here, Pooper is here, feeling a little tense for tomorrow. That's absolutely normal, and it's okay to feel tense for tomorrow. But I'm sure that all of you would do really, really well. It's absolutely okay to feel nervous, to feel anxious, to have emotions of doubt, self doubt. But trust me, you have prepared really hard for this day throughout the past few months. And this is your time to shine. So don't let any self doubt come your way. Just fill yourself with positive thoughts. Just be very self confident, not overconfident, but self confident. And we'll look at what we need to do for tomorrow's day. Angel is here, Vivan is here, Ranjish is here. Oh, sorry, Rajneesh is here. Pardon me. Khushi is here, Ashi is here, Ruchir is here, Kavya is here, Khushali is here. All right, काफी सारे लोग आ चुके हैं. चलो, let's begin without any further ado. So we are talking about last minute tips for SLAT 2025 slot 2, which is bound to happen tomorrow on Sunday 15th of December 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. सबसे पहले and most importantly, you need to have these things ready for the exam tomorrow. Although Miten sir has already discussed them in the previous session, I think that it is important to go through them very quickly once again. Of course, a colored printout of the admit card. Colored printout is specifically important. Black and white printouts would not be accepted. It is mentioned explicitly on the instructions. Okay. So get this ready, get this done today itself. कल के लिए मत छोड़ो इसको, आज ही करा लो या कल सुबह करा लेना. Don't leave it for the last moment. Then of course you have to paste the passport size colored photograph in the space provided on your admit card. So फोटो के साथ में ही आपको एक और अपनी passport size photograph चिपकानी है. Try that both of the photographs are same, the one which is on your admit card and the one which you paste it on the admit card. A lot of students have the doubt that do we need to paste it from our home or do we need to go to the center and paste it? The answer to that is you can paste it at home. Don't leave it for the center. You don't have to wait for the invigilator to check your admit card before pasting it. You can paste it beforehand. ठीक है. एंड या उसका फायदा ये भी है कि आपको ग्लू स्टिक वगैरह नहीं ढूंढनी पड़ेगी एग्जाम सेंटर पे जाके, जो कि हो सकता है अवेलेबल ना हो सकता है हो, यू डोंट नो. सो पेस्ट द फोटोग्राफ एंड मेक श्योर द फोटोग्राफ इज क्लियर. Make sure it's not blurry, make sure it's not very old, you know, all the basic stuff, right? Next is very important, carrying your original identity proof, an ID card, which is a government issued ID card, and they have issued the list of these 5 acceptable documents. Now I'll share my experience of what I saw a lot of aspirants doing as a mistake in this particular point. A lot of the students were carrying either an Aadhaar card photocopy, which is not a valid ID proof. You need to carry the original Aadhaar card. ठीक है. Photocopy से काम नहीं चलेगा. Many of the students were carrying a printed photocopy and they did not have the original, so they had to face some hassles. Although some of them were allowed to write the exam, but why to go through that stress right before the exam, right? So make sure you carry your original, any of these 5 ID cards. It could be passport, voter ID, Aadhaar, PAN card. Now, another thing which I noticed in some of the aspirants was they were carrying PAN card, but their PAN card was the one which does not have a photo, the no photo PAN card. Now, obviously, it's common sense that when they are asking you an ID proof and photo ID proof, then it makes sense to have a ID proof which has your photo on it. So if your PAN card does not have a photo on it, then please don't carry that PAN card. College ID cards are acceptable. School ID cards are not acceptable because it's not mentioned कि school ID cards ले लिए जाएंगे. कुछ centers पे काफी सारे students brought their school ID cards and they had to face hassle again. So that is the thing, that follow the instructions carefully. And Aadhaar, I think most of you would be having. So carry your original Aadhaar. उसमें photo updated नहीं है तो carry another photograph of yours to give the proof that you are the person who's in the Aadhaar card. They would ask you basic questions like what is your date of birth, what is the name of your father, and you need to answer those questions correctly, of course. Now, what happened in my center in the slot one was when I was giving the exam, the guy ahead of me was asked the date of birth, and he gave his date of birth, let's say XYZ. And the invigilator said, but आपके आधार कार्ड पे तो date of birth is ABC. So then again, he had to wait for some interrogation, 10-15 minutes wasted. And of course, the panic and nervousness. Don't do that things. Analog watch. Now, this is again a disputed thing. In my center, the invigilators, not exactly invigilators, the guards which were outside the center were not allowing analog watches. But me being me, I told them that the instructions clearly mentioned that there are only digital devices which are not allowed, analog watches allowed, and नहीं होगी allowed तो मैं वापस आके जमा कर दूंगा, because I was wearing my watch and I did not want to leave it there in the box of random things which were left by people. Either you had to deposit it in a deposit facility, the watch or whatever things are not allowed, or you could leave it at the risk of getting lost in a random box of things which where the people were depositing their things. So either of the case scenarios were not very favorable. So I went with my watch. I thought maybe I'll talk to the invigilator. If it's not allowed, I'll deposit it with the invigilator. But again, that being said, टाइमर जो है आपके स्क्रीन पे चल रहा होता है, so if you want to skip the watch, you can skip the watch. That's completely okay. You would see the timer running on your screen, and that is the purpose of your watch, right? Taking a track of time. The track of time would be available on your timer on your computer screen, so you can either skip the watch as well. That's no big deal. Okay. Now, that being said, these are the things which you need to have ready with you before you proceed for your center. Some other things on the exam day. Of course, you should reach your center 90 minutes before the scheduled time. They would not be allowing entries beyond 4 p.m. I mean, they have the whole right to deny you entry beyond 4 p.m. Obviously, मेरे center पे भी when the exam was 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., a lot of students came at 8:45, a lot of them came at 8:50, but they were given entries. But again, you don't want to depend on the kindness of the invigilator. You don't know what sort of an invigilator you would get, a strict one or a lenient one. So don't depend on that. Reach your center 90 minutes before the scheduled time. That means if your exam is at 4:30, you should be at your center at 3 p.m. ideally. There's no harm in going to the center and waiting. If you're going with your parents, then of course you can wait with them in the vehicle or with them. If you're going alone, just take a walk around, just sit and chill, do something. Okay. Next is when you get your entry, take your seat, calm down and sit and relax. Just don't talk to a lot of people. Just don't think that you're not well prepared. Just fill yourself with positive thoughts that you have prepared for this and you're ready for this. And now you're going to ace the exam. And I already mentioned no entry allowed 30 minutes before the exam. Now, here Amitain sir had mentioned biometric may be captured at the center. I would say that biometric will be captured at the center because now I know after giving the slot 1 exam, you would be required to do a biometric. Biometric essentially not your fingerprints, but your facial biometric would be done to see that the photo which is on your admit card and the person who's appearing for the exam are the same. Now, goes without saying, you should not look very different from your ID card photo because then that would be a problem with the facial recognition. And this biometric at some centers might take some time because their systems are outdated and slow, unfortunately. At my center, my room ka biometric system was not functioning, so I had to go to a different room, do my biometric, and then I was allocated my seat. Be prepared for these contingencies. These can happen to any one of you. I really hope that they don't happen, but there can be hiccups, there can be hurdles which you need to be mentally prepared for. Just don't let the invigilator waste a lot of time and ऐसा ना हो कि आपका एग्जाम स्टार्ट हो जाए. Do everything possible in your capacity, but in a civilized and polite manner that your exam does not suffer. Okay, because no one is going to be taking accountability for that, neither the invigilator nor the SLAT authorities or the government. Of course, you would be liable for everything. And once completed, take your seat, keep calm, do some breathing exercise. Don't this is very, very important because there would be a lot of students in a particular room in a center. There might be a possibility that the invigilator misses stamping your admit card. It is very important to get your admit card stamped as well as signed by the invigilator. Not just your admit card, but also your rough sheets. Rough sheets पे भी स्टैम्प नहीं लगेगा. स्टैम्प उसमें लगा हुआ होगा नेम एंड आपका क्या कहते हैं रोल नंबर एंड कंप्यूटर नंबर लिखने का. यू हैव टू गेट इट साइंड बाय द इन्विजिलेटर. All the 3 sheets. There would be 2 to 3 sheets which would be provided to you, blank sheets, and you would need to get them signed by the invigilator because वहाँ पे option होता है sign का. They would deposit those 3 rough sheets. They would not allow you to get them back. But yeah, you need to get them signed as well, and make sure you do not write anything on your admit card. Do not write anything on the admit card at all. And another important thing, which I think I told you earlier as well, is do not press any keys on the keyboard. कीबोर्ड पे आप कीज प्रेस करोगे तो आपका सिस्टम लॉक हो जाएगा. योर सिस्टम इज डिजाइंड इन अ वे दैट यू आर नॉट अलाउड टू यूज द कीबोर्ड, यू आर ओनली अलाउड टू यूज द माउस ऑफ द कंप्यूटर एग्जाम. ठीक है, चलो. आई होप दिस इज क्लियर टू एवरीवन. स्टैम्प्ड एडमिट कार्ड इज मैंडेटरी फॉर द सब्सिक्वेंट प्रोसेस ऑफ योर एडमिशन. चलो, अब हम बात कर लेते हैं कुछ टेक अवेज की फ्रॉम द स्लैट एग्जाम जो आई एक्सपीरियंस्ड, एंड फ्रॉम माई एक्सपीरियंस आई कैन टेल यू दिस वुड बी द केस इन द स्लॉट 2 as well, most likely. First is, of course, do not underestimate the difficulty level of the exam. All of us went into the exam, the slot 1 exam, thinking that these would be on the same lines of the SLAT exam, which has been happening for the past few years, which is a very easy paper, a halwa paper, a easy peasy laddu paper. But SLAT authorities gave us a surprise. The paper level was easy to moderate. For some students, it was moderate. For some, it was even difficult to a certain extent, but I would still keep it in the category of moderate paper. It was definitely not a super easy paper like it has been historically. So again, do not go with the mindset that the paper would be very, very easy. And the flip side as well, that it would be very, very difficult. Because the slot 1 has been easy to moderate or moderate, they would keep the slot 2 as well on a certain similar level. It would not be very easy, it would not be very difficult. So be prepared with that sort of a mindset. Now, because a couple of sections in the slot 1 were lengthy in nature, for example, the analytical reasoning section was a little lengthy for some students. They spent a lot of time on certain questions and they could or could not solve it. But what that did was they could not attempt all the 60 out of 60 questions. मैंने जब कल आके लाइव सेशन किया था, फर्स्ट इंप्रेशन सेशन, देन I could see a lot of responses where the students were saying they could attempt 55, they could attempt 57. That is a sin in the SLAT exam. You cannot attempt less than 60 questions. You have to attempt all the 60 out of 60 questions in any given case scenario. Okay? Achha, if you want to know the cutoffs and all on the basis of the slot 1 paper, then you can check out that particular video, which I did yesterday, slot 1 analysis, first impression. Kafi detailed videos, I also discussed the questions of subsequent sections, all the 5 sections, and how it was for me and how it was for all the other students. It's a short half an hour odd video. Do check it out after this particular stream ends. Now, there was a speculation that whether calculators would be provided, physical or virtual calculators. No, the answer to that is now clear because we did not get any virtual calculators or on-screen calculators in the slot 1. So it's more than likely to be sure that there would be no calculators in slot 2 as well. So be prepared to do your calculations on the sheet of paper which would be provided. You'll be given 3 sheets, so make use of them accordingly. ऐसा नहीं कि आप इतना बड़ा सर्कुलर अरेंजमेंट पजल बना लिया एक ही शीट पे और फिर शीट्स खत्म हो गई. आई डोंट थिंक दे वुड प्रोवाइड यू एक्स्ट्रा शीट्स. दे माइट नॉट. सो मेक गुड यूज ऑफ दोस 3 A4 शीट्स. आगे पीछे मिला के 3 शीट्स आपको मिलेंगी, 3 पेपर्स. Okay, then of course rough sheets will be provided. I have already told this. And एक और चीज which I found to be surprising, not exactly surprising but a little different, was that they did not allow any of the pens which were not transparent in nature. ये मैंने पहली बार देखा in a certain exam that even the pens which were, जैसे मैं कौन सा पेन लेके गया था, for example, let's take this pen. This is a Renault Trimax sort of a pen, Rorito Maxtron, and these type of pens were not allowed. They asked you to drop them at the checking counter itself. Either you could go back and deposit them, or you could drop them at the checking counter where there is no guarantee you will get them back. It's your luck. Okay? So same for bottles. There were no I would say opaque bottles which were allowed to proceed beyond the checking counter. So make sure your pens which you are carrying are transparent. And even if you're not carrying pens, there's no need to worry because they would provide you with a pen. Pen would be provided by the authorities. That is given, that is for sure. ठीक है? अगर आपका अच्छा एक और चीज, आपको पेन मिल जाएगा बिफोर द एग्जाम स्टार्ट्स. मेक श्योर यू ट्राई टू यूज दैट पेन. चाहे तो एडमिट कार्ड पे छोटा सा चला के देख लेना, बहुत साइड से जरा सा, कि whether your pen is working fine or not. And if your pen is not working fine, ask for a different pen or ask for 2 pens. There's no such shame in asking for a different pen. You would not be reprimanded for all of that. Make sure that your equipment is on point. Your computer is on point, your mouse is working, your screen is working, and your pen is working. You have your rough sheets before the exam begins. You have your admit card stamped and signed before the exam begins. And ensure all of these things. कई बार ऐसा होता है centers पे that rough sheets are not provided before the exam begins. They tell you that we'll give them once the exam starts, but that would waste your time, right? Them coming to them coming to you, giving your rough sheets and then signing it. So वहां पे जाके हीरो भी मत बनना कि मैंने तो पढ़ा है या सर ने बोला है कि ऐसा ऐसा होता है, बट ट्राई टू बी सिविलाइज्ड एंड ट्राई टू रिक्वेस्ट देम दैट दिस इज हाउ इट इज. And if they cooperate, well and good. If they don't argue with them. Don't try to pick up a fight with the invigilators because they have the authority to cancel your attempt. Okay? So be very cooperative. That being said, let's look at the subject-wise takeaways from SLAT Slot 1. What do we understand from each particular subject? And how can you be better equipped and well prepared for the upcoming Slot 2 based on what we had in the Slot 1? Okay. If everything is clear up till now, if I'm making sense, can I have a very quick yes in the chat box? If all of you are on the same page with me with respect to all the instructions, the general instructions, what to do, what to carry, all of those stuff. Everything is clear, guys? Any questions there? There are a few questions. I'll quickly address them once I'm done with my end of the presentation. So don't worry, I'll answer all your questions. Okay? Okay, lovely. Everyone is clear. Okay. Beautiful. So let's talk about the English section. Although we have discussed all of this in the first impression and detailed analysis, but just as a point of view of takeaways, let's discuss them once again. So English section was fairly simple and easy in the slot 1 exam. Now this has no bearing on the slot 2 exam in that sense कि English section अगर easy आया है slot 1 में तो slot 2 में भी English ही easy आएगा. It could be a different section which is easier, but on a ओवरऑल लेवल द थिंग्स वुड बी क्वाइट सिमिलर. ठीक है. सो यहाँ पे अगर एक इजी, एक मॉडरेट, एक इजी और फिर एक मॉडरेट सेक्शन आया तो यू कुड एक्सपेक्ट समथिंग सिमिलर, दैट 2 मॉडरेट 3 इजी सेक्शंस और 3 मॉडरेट और 2 super easy sections, something like that, or 1 difficult or 4 easy sections. It could be any of those permutations, combinations, and you cannot really speculate on the basis of slot 1 that how exactly a specific section would look like. But what we can speculate and what we can be prepared for is what can be expected. Now, English section had, I think, 4 RCs. And on the basis of those 3 to 4 RCs, there were simple, direct, factual questions. Couple of them were vocabulary based questions, not a lot of vocab questions, mostly factual questions. The important takeaway from the English section is you have to read your options carefully. They tried to play around with the options. The options were pretty close in nature, and if you don't read the options entirely, there's a very good likelihood that you would choose the wrong option because all of them looked very similar. If you read option A, you would see that this matches something which is mentioned in the passage. Let's mark option A and carry on. No, read option B, C, and D. It might be possible that B is closer to the passage as compared to A. So be very vigilant about that. I'm being very specific and explicit here. Read the options carefully in the English section of the exam. Okay. And of course, read the passage carefully. That goes without saying. Attempting questions first or passage first is your discretion based on the paper. If the passage is short, then you can either read the passage first. If the passage is lengthy, you can go to the questions first and then skim through the passage. That is an approach which you would have to pick out of the two, whatever works best for you. Okay. All right. Next, we move to the logical reasoning section. Now, logical reasoning section was a mix of AR plus CR this particular year. There were calendar ke 2 questions which were asked. So make sure you are prepared with that. There was a question on blood relations which was asked. Be prepared for that. There was a question on direction which was asked. Be prepared for that. There were 2 arrangement puzzles which were asked. Be prepared for that. यहाँ पे seating arrangement वाली puzzles थी आपकी. Be prepared for that as well. उसके अलावा there were 4 to 5 questions of critical reasoning, which is assumptions, inferences, conclusions, those kind of questions. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward questions, nothing very difficult in the CR aspect. But obviously, if you don't know the concept of calendars or if you don't know the concept of, let's say, puzzles, then they might be a little bit challenging to solve in the exam. So be mentally prepared for those kind of things. अब जरूरी नहीं है कि slot 1 में calendar आया है तो slot 2 में भी calendar ही आएगा. Slot 2 में clocks भी आ सकता है. You don't know, but AR के जो भी broad आपके topics होते हैं, make sure you are well prepared for them, or even well prepared for worst case scenario कि ऐसा कोई topic आ जाए जो आपने कभी देखा ही नहीं. हो सकता है कि visual reasoning का कोई topic आ जाए कि ये वाली image में ये ऐसी बनी है, ये वाली image ऐसी बनी है, ये वाली image ऐसी बनी है, तो बताओ next image कैसी बनेगी. These type of questions can also be asked. There is no guarantee, there is no fixed syllabus in analytical reasoning. Be prepared for everything. Okay. अब एक दिन में आप लोग कैसे सबके लिए प्रिपेयर करोगे उसका आंसर मेरे पास नहीं है, बट हाँ एटलीस्ट बी मेंटली प्रिपेयर्ड दैट जो भी आएगा वो सबके लिए सेम होगा. If the paper is difficult, it would be same difficult for everyone. What you can do from your end is try to have a good hold on maximum frequently asked topics. ठीक है. Now, when we talk of analytical reasoning was very quant heavy. ये बहुत सारे हमारे speculations चल रहे थे before the slot one that what would be the composition of the AR section? Would it just be quant? Would it just be LR? Would it be a mix of both of them? So it was a mix of both of them, but leaning towards the quant side more. There were questions on percentage, there were questions on ratio and ages, there were questions on what else? Profit and loss. There was question on simple interest and compound interest. There was question on DI. So make sure that you firstly look through the 12 questions and see which are the 7-8 questions which are easy and doable. कई बार क्या होता है in the analytical reasoning section, what the mistakes have been committed by students in the slot one. I want you to learn from those mistakes. The mistakes were they either got stuck at any of the few questions in AR and then could not complete either the AR section or any other section के पूरे सारे questions. So it's important to strategize your AR section. The strategy we'll discuss इसके just बाद. But for now, AR section में, I want you guys to go to question number 1 to 12 very quickly, tap through the questions and identify what are the first 6, 7, 8 questions which you would solve on priority, which you think that you can easily solve just by looking at the paper and you're confident about them. There could be 3, 4 questions which you feel that I may or may not be able to solve them. Leave them for the last. लीव देम फॉर द लास्ट का मतलब ये नहीं है इनको अटेम्प्ट नहीं करोगे आप, इनको डेफिनेटली अटेम्प्ट करना है. एंड अगर आपसे सॉल्व नहीं हुए, if you are not able to solve them, still mark an answer, mark a B, mark a C, look at the options, which of the options are looking sweeter to you, just mark that option. ठीक है, don't leave it empty at all. अच्छा हाँ, एक और चीज, एक और टेक अवे जो मुझे अभी याद आया based on the question, based on a comment which I received on the previous analysis, is if I have marked a question for review, would it be considered in the final scheme of marking? Would it be evaluated? That was a question which was asked in the comment section. Let me explain it to you very clearly how this fundamentally works. There are 5 things which you can do with a particular question. It is unattempted, or either you have read it and did not attempt it. Then there is you attempted it and saved it, जिसमें ये green color का हो जाता है. There is you read it and you attempted it and then you क्या कहते हैं marked it for review. इसमें ये पर्पल कलर का हो जाता है. बट इसमें एक there is a catch. If you have marked it and marked it for review, then पर्पल के साथ एक green tick दिखेगा आपको, something green on the purple patch as well. But if you have just read it and marked it for review, then आपको वो सिर्फ पर्पल कलर का दिखेगा. अब the answer to the question is, if it is just purple, that is you have read it, you have marked it for review, but you have not selected among the A, B, C and D option, you have not put in your choice and just marked it for review, that would just be purple and this would not be considered for evaluation, क्योंकि आपने अपनी choice ही नहीं mark करी ना. It's very commonsensical. अगर आपने A, B, C, D में से कोई choose ही नहीं किया, सिर्फ mark for review करके आगे बढ़ गए, तो कैसे consider करेंगे? But अगर आपने choice mark कर दी है, let's say A, B, C, D में से B and you have marked it for review, देन वो आपका पर्पल के साथ एक ग्रीन या सा टिक आ जाएगा या कुछ आ जाएगा. दीज क्वेश्चंस वुड बी कंसिडर्ड फॉर इवैल्यूएशन. ठीक है, डोंट वरी अबाउट दैट. ऑफ कोर्स गोज विदाउट सेइंग, जो आपने आंसर एंड सेव कर दिए जो पूरे ग्रीन हो गए वो तो ऑब्वियसली वुड बी कंसिडर्ड. एंड लास्ट में जब आपके पास 2 मिनट बचे एंड व्हेन यू आर अबाउट टू प्रेस द सबमिट बटन, उससे पहले आपको दिखेगा कि आपने कितने क्वेश्चंस आंसर कर दिए. आपको 60 on 60 चेक करना है वेदर 60 of 60 हैव बीन आंसर्ड और नॉट. काफी सारे स्टूडेंट्स के साथ मुझे रिपोर्ट्स मिली कि ये ग्लिच हुआ कि व्हेन दे वेंट ऑन टू सबमिट द आंसर्स, some of the answers got deleted themselves, मतलब अपने आप ही वो आंसर की से हट गए and they were seeing like 50 on 60 answered even though they claimed that they had answered 60 on 60. तो ऐसा चेक कर लेना, ऐसा कोई ग्लिच वगैरह आपके साथ तो नहीं हो रहा. If something of that happens unfortunately, then please bring it to the notice of authorities as soon as possible. अगर आपको कोई भी टेक्निकल ग्लिच फेस करने को मिल रहा है तो I really hope कि आप में से किसी के साथ ऐसा ना हो, but you never know, it's possible. ठीक है. Chalo. Coming back to the analysis of our section, so AR was very quant heavy. Be ready to put in some calculations. Be ready to use your options for calculations. काफी सारे questions ऐसे थे ना जिसमें if you go with an options first approach, then you could solve them better. यानी कि आपने मान लो there are four options A, B, C, and D, and you had to solve for a number. One number was like 4, one number was like 6, one number was like 7, and other number was like 765. ठीक है, या इसको 1 कर दो. So obviously these two are extreme options. If I am to going with the options first, then I would check with option numbers B or check with option number C. Put it in the question and see if the question is getting satisfied or not. Basically doing reverse engineering in the quant section. That could work for some of the questions जिसमें कैलकुलेशन आपको ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स लग रही है. ऑफ कोर्स ऐसा नहीं है कि किसी भी क्वेश्चन में एक्सट्रीम वाले ऑप्शन सही नहीं हो सकते. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू अ strategy to go about it. 90% of the cases mein strategy works. So be prepared for solving a lot of calculative questions in the AR section. That could very well be the possibility. You would not be getting any calculators. I'm repeating that. So आपको calculation manually करनी पड़ेगी. Try to be as fast as possible. अगर आपको last digit पता चल गया है 3 digit आंसर का, तो just see that अगर बाकी जो 3 options हैं उनके last digit अलग है, तो mark that and proceed. You would have to do a little smart work around that. ठीक है? All right. Of course number series के question भी इसमें पूछे गए थे analytical reasoning में, so be prepared for that. There was number series, there was alphanumeric series as well. So वो दोनों आपको आने चाहिए. Then we move on to the legal reasoning section. This was I think one of the easiest and straightforward section. इसमें एक दो questions ऐसे आए थे in which you required prior knowledge of law. जैसे damages में damages in contracts and damages in torts में क्या difference होता है, कौन सा statement सही है, उसमें prior legal knowledge चाहिए थी. Without that it would not have been possible to answer it. But beyond that, most likely 10 questions were legal principle and fact based ones, जिसमें you could easily answer them based on the legal principle. Fairly simple principles, fairly simple facts, easily हो जाएगा. Then comes the GK section. GK section obviously हमें सबसे पहले attempt करना है, and this year in the GK sections they asked you some very random static GK questions as well. Questions like which country has the largest number of islands, questions like with which countries did we sign ETF agreements in on 10th March, questions like what else were some random questions, Otan Thulal, ये कहाँ का डांस फॉर्म है. These type of questions were also asked. 3-4 questions were such which most likely many of the aspirants did not know about. एक question था कि which of these bodies supervises the insurance sector, telecom sector and such, and उसका आंसर था ad hoc committees. तो वो भी थोड़ा सा एक moderate level question था. So expect at least 3 to 4 moderate level questions जिनके आंसर आपको शायद ना आते हो. There is a possibility that you don't know them. There was also a question from history which was Chauri Chaura incident पे based, which we covered in our marathon of the last day. So I got really happy to see that. एक नंबर तो चलो मेरी वजह से बढ़ गया, किसी ना किसी का तो बढ़ गया होगा. But ठीक है, expect that 7 to 8 questions would be easy, 3 to 4 would be moderate to difficult in nature. Go with that approach in mind. Of course, it could be that all 12 questions out of 12 questions are easy and some other section is difficult. I've already given you that disclaimer. But this could also be a likely possibility. ठीक है जी. सो ये तो बात हो गई हमारी सब्जेक्ट वाइज टेकअवेज की फॉर द स्लैट स्लॉट 1 एग्जाम एंड हाउ यू कुड यूज देम फॉर द स्लैट स्लॉट 2 एग्जाम. नाउ टाइम मैनेजमेंट, ऑल्दो वी हैव डिस्कस्ड दिस कपल ऑफ टाइम्स बिफोर, बट बिकम्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू डिस्कस इट फॉर द वेरी लास्ट टाइम. सबसे पहले स्टार्ट विद जीके. डू नॉट स्पेंड मोर देन 5 to 6 minutes on this particular section. Then move on to either your legal reasoning or your reading comprehension, your reading heavy sections. Try to wrap them up in the next 18 to 20 minutes. By doing this, you would be done with 3/5 of the paper, which is 60% of the paper, and you would be just left with the 24 questions of the calculative part. इसमें भी आपके 4-5 CR वाले questions जो होंगे, critical reasoning वाले, वो पहले कर लो. तो आपके कितने बचेंगे? 12 plus 6 odd questions, 18 odd questions would be left. And यहाँ पे कितना टाइम स्पेंड किया आपने? Let's say 20 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and 5 minutes in the CR questions. That is 30 minutes. So you would have 30 minutes left for these last 80 questions. इनमें भी ये 30 minutes को आपको इस तरीके से यूज करना है that you are able to solve at least 15-16 अच्छे से by giving them ample amount of time and effort. एंड बाकी एक दो अगर बचेंगे जो नहीं हो रहे सॉल्व, उनमें फिर तो कमार देना. कोशिश करना कि सारे 18 सॉल्व कर लो, बट अगर नहीं हो पाते तो डोंट लीव देम अनअटेम्प्टेड. ठीक है. So that would be your strategy with respect to your time management in the exam. And yeah, आफ्टर द एग्जाम ये अमितेंद्र सर आपको बता चुके हैं कि स्टार्ट वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स द पीआई, लीगल नॉलेज पे काम करो, जनरल अवेयरनेस पे काम करो, एचआर क्वेश्चंस पे काम करो। हमारा स्कोर कार्ड आ जाएगा 26 दिसंबर को, मेरी क्रिसमस के जस्ट एक दिन बाद। एंड देन देयर वुड बी शॉर्ट लिस्टिंग फॉर इंटरव्यूज बाय रिस्पेक्टिव एसएलएस। एंड पर्सनल इंटरव्यूज आपके स्टार्ट हो जाएंगे फर्स्ट वीक ऑफ जनवरी से। ठीक है। Then, of course, this is the registration process, which is also available on the website. Registration close होंगे इन dates को for these particular law schools. Shortlisting would be declared on these dates. Slot booking would be in between these dates, and the online personal interviews would be between these dates. And of course, you would have to be having paid for the programs for which you are expecting calls. अगर आपने पे नहीं किया है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने एसएलएस नागपुर के प्रोग्राम के लिए पे नहीं किया, तो आपको वहां से कॉल्स नहीं आएंगे। अगर आपने सिर्फ पुणे के लिए किया तो सिर्फ पुणे के लिए अगर आप शॉर्टलिस्टेड या एलिजिबल हो, यू वुड गेट कॉल्स फॉर पुणे एंड सो ऑन। ठीक है। आई थिंक दिस इज प्रीटी मच क्लियर टू एवरीवन। एंड लास्टली, don't forget to smile and keep a positive attitude, be self confident, don't be that nervous, थोड़ा सा nervousness is okay. अब if you guys have any questions, मैं जल्दी से उनको आंसर कर लेता हूँ। And yeah, before I wrap up my thing, all the very best for your exam as well. Let me look at the questions. Ideally, if you had to solve AR slowly, it will take you at least 25 to 30 minutes. अब slowly का मतलब relative है, ठीक है, relative as compared to the English and logical reasoning section. But हाँ, can you explain calendar topic? Yeah, I'm not a faculty of analytical reasoning or quant, so I'm not considering myself an expert on the calendar and clocks and those kind of topics. It's better if you take a tutorial from expert faculty, either on YouTube or your respective centers. That would be better as an approach. ठीक है, मुझे उतना अच्छे से नहीं आता. I have no shame in admitting that कि I'm not the best person to teach you calendars. I might be a good person to teach you CR, English or legal, but I'm not the best person to teach you quant or AR. So जो चीज़ मुझे आती नहीं, मैं उसमें ज़बरदस्ती आपको ज्ञान दूंगा नहीं. ओके, AR में मार्क्स नहीं आते, क्या करो? प्रैक्टिस करो यार, प्रैक्टिस करो. Yesterday you said that contract for land falling under SEZ was voidable. Could you explain that it should be void? Okay, so देखो वहां पे void वाला एक तो आई थिंक ऑप्शन भी नहीं था कोई पे. अगर ऑप्शन था भी तो द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाज वैलिड इन इटसेल्फ, बट ड्यू टू मिस रिप्रेजेंटेशन कि आपको पता नहीं था कि यहाँ पे SEZ एक्वायर हो जाएगा, सो इट वुड बी voidable एट द एंड ऑफ द बायर. यानी कि जिसने उसके पैसे दे दिए एंड खरीद लिया है, उसको नहीं पता था कि ये SEZ के अंदर आ जाएगा, एंड सेलर को भी नहीं पता था. सो दिस वाज नॉट अ फ्रॉड, दिस वाज मिसरिप्रेजेंटेशन, बिकॉज बोथ ऑफ देम वर अनअवेयर ऑफ द स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन, एंड देयरफॉर इट वुड बी voidable. आपको मैंने पूरा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट पढ़ाया था, उसमें मैंने क्या पढ़ाया था आपको कि मिसरिप्रेजेंटेशन अगर होता है, सो इट वुड बी voidable एट द एंड ऑफ द पर्सन हु गेव हिज कंसेंट बेस्ड ऑन दोज गिवन इन्फॉर्मेशन. है ना, void कब होता है? void होता है जब एनफोर्सेबल नहीं होता कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बिकॉज ऑफ सम अदर कंडीशन. बट फ्रॉड के केस में, आपके मिस रिप्रेजेंटेशन के केस में, मिस्टेक के केस में, फ्री कंसेंट वाले जितने भी केसेस होते हैं, उन सब में voidable एट द ऑप्शन ऑफ द party which is getting into the contract based on certain assumptions. ठीक है, so I think that's simple. Okay. Any other thing? If there's a mistake of fact for the matter, essentially the contract, then it is void. नहीं यार, it's voidable at the end of the party जिसने mistake of क्या कहते हैं fact पे agree किया. Without free consent, it is voidable. अब माइनर के साथ है तो void है, माइनर वाला void होता है, बट बाकी सारे केसेस में voidable बनता है. प्रॉफिट लॉस क्वेश्चंस क्विकली कैसे सॉल्व करें? आपको सिंपल फंडामेंटल्स पता होने चाहिए कि प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस कैसे ऑपरेट करते हैं अलॉन्ग विद सेलिंग प्राइस एंड कॉस्ट प्राइस. देन मार्क प्राइस एंड डिस्काउंट वाला फंडामेंटल आपको पता होना चाहिए. इसमें कई बार परसेंटेजेस की नॉलेज अगर आपको अच्छी है तो यू कैन यूज दैट टू योर एडवांटेज. परसेंटेजेस इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू नो फॉर दीज टॉपिक्स. कैन टू माइनर्स एंटर अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट? नो, दे कैन नॉट. चलो ठीक है, लीगल के क्वेश्चंस नहीं सॉल्व कर रहे हैं हम. एग्जाम रिलेटेड इफ यू गाइस हैव एनी डाउट्स प्लीज लेट मी नो. Let me check ऊपर जाके. What do we do for GK? The same thing which you did for CLAT and ILIT, nothing specific. Static वाली marathon अगर आपने check नहीं करी है तो do that static वाली marathon which we did just before the slot 1. What types of LR are most likely to come? ये मैंने cover कर लिया है. If I have attempted a wrong question but I haven't marked it for review, so will I get marks for the? नहीं, you have to attempt the question. It's good to be on the safer side. Attempt तो करने ही करने हैं यार क्वेश्चन. अगर आप क्यों नहीं करोगे कोई सा भी क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट? अगर गलत होता है या क्वेश्चन गलत होता है तो देखा जाएगा. but attempt 60 on 60 करके आने. Srijan is saying which center. My center was RK Digital something something. It was near North Campus. DU North Campus के पास था. Mouse was not even working properly. I told them, but they denied. अरे यार, that's just sad. I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I really hope that does not happen with you on the 15th. Okay, I think we have covered most ground which we had to. What is your predicted cutoff for SLS Pune? I've given all of those predictions for each of the SLS in the analysis session. Do check that out if you all haven't. उसमें भी हमने काफी सारे questions को individually discuss किया है. Please make sure that all of you check out that session if you haven't. काफी helpful रहेगा वो भी for slot 2. ठीक है? चलो. That's all for today's session, guys. From my side, Vivan is saying in my center they didn't let me take my analog watch. They asked me to remove my belt and asked me to leave my spare admit card. Is this normal? It's not normal, yeah, but again, it's their discretion. You can't really argue with them. मेरे सेंटर पे भी ऐसा ही सीन था. बेल्ट का तो उतना नहीं रोका उन लोगों ने, but analog watches they were not allowing. And yes, spare admit card they were not allowing. Transparent pouches and folders they were not allowing. Non-transparent pens they were not allowing. So don't carry anything with you apart from the three given things which are required: transparent water bottle, your admit card, and your government approved original ID card. ठीक है? चलो. What about last minute prep? Legal के लिए you don't need any last minute prep. What you can do is look at थोड़ा सा आपका constitutional GK वाला aspect, legal GK थोड़ी सी देख लो. Recent judgments and all क्या हैं, historical development of the constitution, वो सारा थोड़ा सा देख लो. बाकी legal principle वाले questions तो आप लोग कर ही लोगे. लीगल मैराथन चेकआउट कर सकते हो इफ यू वांट टू. लीगल मैराथन जिसमें हमने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स एंड टॉर्ट्स एंड क्रिम लॉ पूरा कवर किया था, दैट कुड बी हेल्पफुल. कैन यू लिस्ट ऑल द टॉपिक्स फॉर एन ओवरव्यू चेकलिस्ट? यार अगर मैं ओवरव्यू चेकलिस्ट के लिए टॉपिक सारे लिस्ट करूंगा तो देयर इज अ वेरी हाई पॉसिबिलिटी आई मिस 1 or 2 टॉपिक्स. एंड अगर उससे क्वेश्चन आ जाएगा तो आप लोग फिर मेरे पीछे पड़ जाओगे कि ये वाला तो आपकी चेकलिस्ट में था ही नहीं, तो हम छोड़ के चले गए. सो अगेन, आई एम नॉट डिफाइनिंग एनी सिलेबस हियर बिकॉज स्लैट अथॉरिटीज ने डिफाइन नहीं किया, तो मैं कौन होता हूँ डिफाइन करने वाला. Just be prepared for anything and everything in the exam is what I would say. Although not very productive advice, but I realize that. But I don't want you guys to go with any preconceived, frameworks ki iske beyond to nahi aayega. Just go with the flow. Just enjoy the process. ठीक है? Chalo. All right. That's all from my side. Thank you for attending this session till the last. Please drop a like on this session if you found this a little bit helpful or insightful. And of course, do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And I'll see you in the analysis tomorrow, somewhere around 6:15 के आसपास we would be live, most likely by 6:30. And फिर discuss करते हैं कल कि पेपर कैसा रहा. Make sure you follow all the instructions which we discussed today, and all the very best. ठीक है? I hope you all will give your best and do really well tomorrow. Chalo. Bye bye guys. Take care. Keep learning. Keep preparing. Signing off. I'll see you all tomorrow.